As you may know, I have started a membership called the Sight Reading Club, and on one of our last Q&A calls, one of my members said that she had started a sight reading practice journal, and I thought that was a really good idea, and so I thought I would do a video on how to keep a sight reading practice journal and what you can write in it. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Manu from Piano Sight Reading, where I give sight reading tips to piano players. So what is a practice journal? So a practice journal is typically a notebook, although you can do it, on any device if you prefer, and it's where you write down things that you did in your practice session. So you write down things like dates, how long you practiced, what you practiced, etc. So it's a little bit like a personal diary, where you write down your thoughts, except in this case you write down your thoughts about your practice. So why would you keep a practice journal? Well, first and foremost, to see your progress, right? Because you can't grow what you can't measure. You need data to see your progress. So in the case of music, the data could be your metronome speed, it could be how long you practice something, or it could be how often you practice during the week. And a practice journal can also help you focus during your practice. So if you set a goal at the start of your session, then it helps you focus during your session. And lastly, it's useful to keep a journal to reflect on your practice session. So how well did you do? What didn't go so well? What can you improve? So you can write all of these things down. So what can you write for a sight reading practice journal? Well, it would be similar to a regular practice journal with a few differences. So first you would write the date. You can write also the day and the time at which you practice. And this is useful to do so that you can go back and see, what time of day you practice, what days of the week you practice, and that helps you work out a routine that works for you. Now you can also write the goal of your practice session. What do you want to achieve? Maybe you want to be able to sight read faster than your previous session, or maybe you want to try and sight read pieces with 3 sharps. So the choice is yours there. And then once you've written the goal, you go about your practice, and then you can write down the pieces that you're sight reading. So you can write them down as you go. Write down the name of the piece, the name of the composer. You can also write other details like how many sharps or flats the piece has, the level of difficulty, the style of the piece as well. So you would write these things down, and then next to each piece you can write down the amount of time you spend, and then you can write the total amount once you've finished your practice. That way you see overall how long you practiced sight reading. You can also write down the speed, especially if you use a metronome when sight reading. You can write down the speed you reached. If you don't use a metronome, you can estimate the speed you were doing, whether you were, slow, whether you played up to speed, whether you played maybe a bit too fast. And then something else you can write is your impressions. So how well did you play? How well did you sight read? Did you get the notes right? How accurate was your rhythm? Were you able to get all the dynamics in? Did you follow the articulation? And then write what didn't go well and what you can do better next time. Another useful thing to write is your observations. Maybe you realized something that can help you with your sight reading. Maybe you had a aha moment, or a light bulb moment. Something else you could write is whether you want to revisit or learn the piece in the future. So for example, say you sight read a piece but it didn't go too well, or you thought it was just a bit too hard for you, you could just write a note saying to revisit later in the future. Or say you sight read a piece that you really like, then maybe you want to actually learn it, properly. So then you would write a note to learn in the future. And then lastly, on a separate piece of paper inside your notebook, you can start a wish list. So whenever you come across a piece you like or a composer you like, write down the name of the piece of the composer, so that when you're ever out of music, you can go back to this wish list and just search for items on the list. So those are some things that you can do with a practice journal for sight reading. Do you keep a sight reading practice journal? And if so, what do you write in it? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Happy sight reading!